2013, with infrastructure development and investment claiming to enhance regional connectivity and to embrace a brighter future, with a goal of completion in 2049. All these names here are very symbolic figures. The initial objectives is to construct a large, unified market and make full use of both international and domestic markets through cultural exchange and integration to enhance mutual understanding and trust of member nations, ending up in an innovative pattern with capital inflows, talent pool, and technology database. All this appear very appealing and even alluring. In response to this China-led BRI project and logistics of the flow of resources, we see the increase of highly developed supply line and assembly line, the cartographical design, and the gigantic construction of cross-continental high-speed railway, road, ports, bridges, canal, pipeline, and massive warehouses, containers, freight, and so on. By the end of August 2000, let's see, that's the picture, yeah. 19, this year. China has signed 195 cooperation documents on the Belt and Road Initiative with 139 countries and 30 international organizations. At this point, this project has involved not only the broader region of Asia, but also Europe, Africa, the Middle East, the Central and South America, and so on. So the visual image of the map of the OBOR network established, crossing 4 continents over $900 billion is impressive, if not alarming. What draws my attention on this cartographical vision of the BRI is the checkpoint this global infrastructure development project sees. Checkpoint refers to the critical locations such as a bridge, a narrow alley, a seaport, or a strait that could control the passage of the movement of the military troops or the transportation of goods. In Southeast Asia, the Strait of Malacca as the main shipping channel between Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean is one of the most important shipping lanes in the world. The British East India Company established in 1826 the Strait settlement under direct British control as Crown Colony in 1867. So commercial, military, or state control after this business company. It is now an essential checkpoint in China's BRI project. The renewed interest of the Krak Canal in Thailand in recent years, a master plan in China's BRI project too, is to link Pacific with Andaman Sea, Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean, and the Arabian Sea, is to implement the Malacca project because it is not entirely secure to China. The sea line of communication in the Indonesian archipelago and the South China Sea, together with the Strait of Malacca, Sunda, and Lombok, where over half of the world's merchant fleet capacity sails through, remain a critical checkpoint and have been controlled by the U.S. So China has to devise this Krak Canal to cut short, yeah, on the right-hand side, yeah. But besides Clark Canal, according to recent report, between 2015 and 2016, China has leased ownership over the following ports: Guada, we know, Myanmar for 50 years, Guada for 40 years, Kuantan, Malaysia for 60 years, Aalborg, Djibouti for 10 years, Palacky Gateway for 99 years, Hemban Sri Lanka for 99 years, Mura Brunei for 60 years, and so on. All right. So the strategic determination of the port location of the 21st century maritime Silk Road extends far wider than the original plan and indicates China's plan to redirect the global shipping or commerce route or military route and to play a stronger role in the international scene. In the Middle East, of course, the Strait of Hormuz that control a third of the world's liquefied natural gas and 25% of total global oil consumption passes through the strait. The strait becomes one of also the most strategic essential checkpoint in the BRI project. The China-Pakistan economic corridor will now link the southwestern port of Guada by Strait of Hormuz to Kashgar in China, Xinjiang, shorten the distance by 12,000 kilometers. And the Bay Bab el-Mandeb, located between Yemen and the Arabian Peninsula and Djibouti and Eritrea in the Horn of Africa, connect the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden and so on. So, but here we also see that 3.3 million barrels of oil pass through the strait per day, out of a world total of about 43 million barrels per day moved by through this passage. So 33 million out of 43 million. In 2016, China began to construct its first military base outside of China in Djibouti. There's a rumor of another one, okay, but they can announce that they did not intend to at Central Asia, I think. Not only to establish its influence of this strait, but also to participate in the arena of the Middle East and reshape the force of international system. So close to Djibouti in Africa, Egypt's Suez Canal, of course, it has long been regarded as a very important strategic point. Okay. And it's there to be integrated with China's BRI project since the beginning of the Belt Road project. Suez, not to mention their long history, okay, starting from the 1950s and 60s. Suez Canal has always, let's see, maybe move on. In Central Asia, Panama Canal, we mentioned it just now. The switch from Taiwan to China and joined the BRI project immediately. That connects the Pacific Atlantic Ocean is another checkpoint that China's Silk Road has secured. China established its diplomatic tie with Panama. In 2017, 5 months later, Panama has assigned 19 bilateral cooperation agreements affirming that Panama adhered to the Chinese Silk Road Initiative, enhancing its role as the great connection with the Panama Canal, and so on. So the historical choke points now are such all these ports, okay, now seems to present a new map through this Belt Road Initiative project. A new map of global trade and global political power that's being shaped through this dispositif of this strategic choke points. The seizing of this choke point, either for energy purposes, maritime trade, military powers, or other sources, underground sources, underwater sources, show the overlapped vision of the world order from the past to the present, from the previous colonial expansion in the last several hundred years to contemporary world. If we compare the map of these ports with the route, with the oil transit choke points, the map of global maritime choke points, and so we can see clearly the strategic plan recurred from the imperial expansion of the maritime age to contemporary trade military dispositif. The concept of logistics closely linked with military management and of the transportation of goods, weapons, manpower, and information can help us to analyze the strategic move on contemporary geoeconomic and geopolitical stage. The strategic disposition of choke point location selected by China's Belt Road Initiative to me is much more comprehensive than the previous greater powers. On this map, we can see a game of Go that the ancient Chinese philosophy or military tactics would suggest that the goal. To go out actually is within its 开放 or open border cities, and also the later on go out policy. Okay, this is their strategy. They say 沿边开放战略 strategy of board open cities and so on. The game of Go literally means a game of encircling, a game of besieging. It's a battle for territory, Weiqi, okay, surrounding the region. When the player region is all surrounded by the opponent on all sides with no corners alive, then he's doomed to be captured and lose the game, will be taken out. Okay, the stone will be taken out from the board or from the map. China's BRI, however, cannot really be considered as a game of Go. Go is a Japanese sound of qi, chess. But I chose this name because it's Go. The game of Go. Because there's no real opponent immediately playing the counteracting move to react against China's move. Okay. Even if we want to say that the U.S. is the other player on the board, there's no exact counter movement right away. Okay, controlled by the U.S. Of course, U.S. has the full intention to counterbalance it. But perhaps we could also take a look at it as either as a one-person game of Go to control the situation, or it's a gigantic game of Go in long duration. Okay, so we need to prolong. So, to me, China's game of BRI is more like the dispositif of 事, the situation, 事, propensity, 事, the circumstances, and everything. to control all this movement of the situation. As a Chinese military strategist and philosopher, Sun once said, the art of war is to know how to control the situation through well-planned tactical disposition so that the flow of energy is to one's favor. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy. Actually, they don't kill everyone. If they killed everyone, they have no one to rule. They want other people to bow to them, to serve them. So the clever thing is to know how to adjust at will. And also the reality, let's see, to this military strategist is that the reality is a process of transformation in its own totality, with the inherent tendencies, inclinations, and propensities. The propensity of things lie within every element and the very configuration or disposition of things. In the process of history, we see the tendencies resulting from particular situation in history and the propensity that governs the overall processes. François Julien, French sinologist, stressed that from ancient time, the Chinese knew this wisdom of controlling, maneuvering, and manipulating this shi, so that the emperor knows how to do it, so that all his subjects would obey him from the bottom of their heart. So this is a technique of governmentality that goes from the internalization of this situation. Everyone knows this is how the propensity will go. 大势所趋, okay, 大势所趋. So then we follow. So the mechanism functions automatically so that the manipulator is entirely inconspicuous. The people do not actually, they are not forced to obey, but would spontaneously follow the dictate of the emperor. And it is crucial to conceive shi as its totality because the reality of things only exists and thus only manifests itself in a totality through a force of propensity that links various elements as a whole. So the reception of the OBOR project in general is favorable, as we know, except for some resistance in Europe, but now it seems there's a different enthusiasm in embracing it, not to mention in Africa. Okay. So according to the Pew Research Center, a global medium of 70% says China played a more important role in the world than it did 10 years ago. And across 25 countries who, in recent survey, that a median of 45% have a favorable view of China. Or in Africa, Middle East, or parts of China, mostly have favorable opinions. And like 76 or 78% of the respondents in Nigeria, Kenya, and Senegal reviewed China favorably. But the high dependency of the Chinese funding have the potential debt trap. They call it debt diplomacy or credit democracy, but not here that have also being described as debt colonialism. The second coming of this Seneca in the 21st century have taken up a very aggressive global dispositif of infrastructure in the vision of 天下. 天下, all under heaven, belongs to me, leaving its imperial trademark across the world, not through military occupation, but promises of infrastructural development and construction aid, as well as soft powers, such as Confucius industry, and other things, for example, local temples, Mazu Miao, and other things, Zhongqi, Tongxianghui. So all these gestures, no, I think I may need to skip a few, but that shows this 天下, all under heaven belongs to the sovereign. Everyone under heaven is my subject. This concept also shows a very interesting world order with the Chinese characteristics. But we also see, let's skip. This move also with this rise of Confucius Institute and the revival of Confucianism actually started in 1990s. In 1990s, it started to have a huge discursive formation, publication, rediscussing Confucianism. And Confucius Institute started to be built in the 2000s, and Confucius Institute headquarters reports in Asia. For example, we have 110 institutes. In Europe, 169, Africa, 46, North America, 126, South America, 31. And they have their intention to build much more, maybe upon one point. But we also know that they have invested over 2 billion in 10 years, over 3 million kids, but in China due to poverty. And so on. So this is a documentary made by a Canadian director in the name of Confucius. This released, I think, 2 years ago. Also, scholars. So we are talking about the fabrication and dissemination or huge pluralization of all this discourse. Not only 天下, not only Confucian virtues, not only this institutionalization of different infrastructures. We have also IR with Chinese characteristics, Chinese school, to stress that this new basilica would be a virtuous one. So I would like to conclude. I do not really intend to offer any surmise or on whether China's overall project will succeed or fail, and the duration of the new world order, basilica, after this Base Americana or the previous ones. So the purpose of my paper is to answer the questions that I raised in the beginning. There are several ones. I try to spell out the complex system that serves as the infrastructure, of the infrastructure, and that undergird this overall project, and the logic of this operation. But behind this analysis, the most pertinent question for me is how does the global infrastructural project penetrate beyond the local societies? These are the images that I took when I visited Ethiopia that Professor Ian Taylor mentioned Ethiopia. We see the traces of China aid all over, right out of the airport, and then in the street, and Jiangsu construction. And they also advertise the concept of connectivity, the rise, the ocean connectivity, and so on. But we also see the high-rise building and also half-constructed buildings because of their corruption. It's huge, blocks and blocks of unfinished construction. But at the same time, of course, the coexistence of this high-rise buildings and their local people. So how does this overall project really quicken and intensify the unequal distribution of wealth locally, not to mention regionally, through what agencies and what logistics, and review what local institutional structure. So as Professor Ian Taylor said, that beyond the surface of the increase of GDP, there are other questions. But I think the most important or serious question would be the impact they hit on local people, local city, and also the economic ecology or the autonomous control of their economic plan. So my curiosity actually is that in this gigantic global mechanism, what is the weakest point or link that might trigger the implosion on itself, or a revolution, but in what way? So I'll end here. So is there any hope for Ethiopian children? Okay, so that is my presentation. Okay, thank you.
The next speaker is Turcsányi. I forgot to mention at the outset, just go ahead, that the speakers know how much time to give for each presentation. I'm not going to...
How much is that? I forgot.
25 to 30 minutes.
So I have my time.
Okay. So we do want to end on time because we only have one hour for lunch, and if we go over time in the presentations, we'll just have to take it out of the break.
Sure.
Please go ahead.
So first of all, thank you very much, Alan, for inviting me. Alan spent a few months with us in Aalborg in the Czech Republic, so it's great to have him. I'm very happy that our cooperation between the two institutions now continue. And for me, it's really great to be back in Taiwan. It's always pleasant, so I'm very happy about that. And thanks everyone for being here. Let me say firstly, a few general words about my presentation before I move to the actual talk. First of all, compared to my two previous speakers, there are no pictures there, so I'm sorry about that. But they had really beautiful presentations, so, but I hope I will still keep your attention only by me speaking. Secondly, this is my new research project, so I don't pretend to have final arguments and perfect finding and evidence. Quite the opposite. When Alan invited me only about 2 weeks ago, I saw that Professor Liu will speak about Weiqi. Professor Lee is here, so he will talk about IP and so on. So I thought that my previous idea, which I even discussed with Alan when he was in the Czech Republic about the Weiqi interpretation of Chinese foreign policy, this is my opportunity to put something together, present it here, and I'll be very happy to look forward. I'll be very happy to hear your feedback and so on. And I do think that what I will talk about will somehow fit into your presentations and also probably the second panel after lunch. So the topic of my presentation is not Belt and Road per se. It's about Chinese regional multilateral initiatives in developing world. I do not deal with kind of China's geopolitical proximity. So I will not, what I'm talking about doesn't really relate to East Asia, Central Asia, South Asia. What it should be related to is Africa, Latin America, Middle East, perhaps Pacific Islands, and the region of Central and Eastern Europe, which is my home region, so to say. And actually, previously I've been working on research following this particular region. So now this is kind of my attempt to expand a bit. So the two issues I want to address is why China is increasingly paying attention to this part of the world, and I will